Hello and welcome to another end of year discussion video for Project Falcon Punch. I'm your host Dan, and with me I have today Andrew Borman. Say hello.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, you know.
If anyone who isn't aware of your YouTube channel and your site PtoPOnline, go over and check it because although we're talking about modern games, Andrew does all, let's say old, but games that either didn't come out or old versions of games, and they're just fascinating to watch.
Absolutely. All things you probably won't see elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly. I've never really spoke to you much about modern games before.
No, I mean, surprisingly, I do play retail games once in a while.
Yeah, because when I asked you to do this, I was like, have you played games from this year? Because I'm doing this thing, and I'd love you to be a part of it, but I don't know if you've played any modern games.
Now, we're talking about 2015 again, right? Because we kind of skipped over it.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I meant to say that, yeah, because we were going to do this last year, and because of, like, time differences and stuff, we just couldn't figure out time to do this.
Yeah, by the time we were both ready, it was February, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Next thing it was like February, then it was like March. I was like, I'll probably just wait till next year. I guess we'll just go straight into your number 5 spot. What is your 5th favourite game of 2016?
Number 5, Forza Horizon 3.
Nice. I've not played this, but I was a fan of the first one.
Yeah, you know, I started with the second one. I actually skipped over the first one. But this one takes us to the wonderful land of Australia.
I've not been there personally. Have you?
I actually have. Now, I'm not going to say that the game really reminds me of Australia. It really doesn't in a lot of ways. But I think the game builds on everything that they've been doing. Just smooth handling, variety of cars, environments. It's really quite nice.
I know it visually is like very, very great as well. From everything I've seen of it, it just looks like a picture, I guess.
It really does, you know. There's times where you just kind of forget. I know we've said that probably for 20 years. Oh, it looks so real. Well, when the game's in motion in particular, I mean, it just looks really, really nice. Of course, every game nowadays has nice rain effects, but this game pulls it off even when it's sunny out, which I think is incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
Of course, we talked about the graphics, but I mean, I just love being able to take just about any type of car that you could possibly want. I'm a big fan of 80s boxy cars, especially, you know, German, European, and just you can customize them to 1,000 horsepower and just go nuts.
Are you a fan of the original or the mainline Forza games, or are you more like the arcade sort of style racer?
I think more arcade at this point. There was a time where, you know, the first and second game of the main series were great, but I also just don't feel a need to revisit that. It kind of feels like treading the old stuff over and over again. Yes, they're better. Yes, you know, it's still kind of the same circuit racing. And, you know, that's not to discredit Turn 10. I have a few friends who work there. They do an awesome job, but, you know, there's just a limit to how much I can play.
I got to admit, I'm not really much of a racer fan, but when it comes to races, arcade races are definitely more my thing, like Burnout or something like that. But for everything I've seen of Horizon 3, I'm just like, yeah, if there's one racer I think this year, I think that's got to be it, really.
Absolutely. I don't think I've played a better one this year.
Fair enough. What have you got down for your number 4?
Number 4 moves us to the PlayStation 4 with Until Dawn Rush of Blood.
Interesting. VR.
I'm a huge fan of VR, not just for the gaming purposes, but I'm a librarian in a school, so I see the potential to truly transport kids to places you can never go. On the topic of Until Dawn, we both talked before the podcast that we both liked Until Dawn, the main game, a lot.
Yep.
And here's my mini plug. I have a PS3 version that I posted a video of, but we're talking about VR.
Yeah, that video, though, is fascinating to just see how much that's changed. But yeah, I guess now gone back into first person, like with the VR game.
So, I mean, I love roller coaster things in VR, but there's never, like, any game to any of them.
Yeah.
So this takes it up that level. It creates an environment that's clearly working around the limitations of the PS4. They keep it dark. Just being on that roller coaster as things are popping out at you. I'm a big fan of rides at, like, Disney World. There is a Toy Story Mania ride. It's a 3D ride where you're on the track and you're shooting random things just for points and stuff. But to be able to take that to the next level, that's what Until Dawn Rush of Blood really does.
With a video game, and that sounds dumb for me to say this, but you can do whatever you want in that sense. Like, you can have these crazy jumps and crazy things coming out at you compared to an actual amusement park.
Absolutely. And I know it sounds silly when we say it, but even, again, with the limitations of PSVR, it's not a perfect platform by any means. It's just enough to where your brain gets fooled. For that split second, you truly forget that you're just sitting in a computer chair playing a game. And, you know, I played it with 2 move controllers, so you're able to move your guns independently. And then I took it to the next level and bought, there's old PS3 Move gun controllers.
Oh, right.
So you're sitting there pointing, and just when you're playing it, it's incredible.
Is it probably your favorite VR game of PlayStation VR?
I do, because a lot of them just aren't games yet. My favorite experience would probably be the Heist, which was awesome. But that's like 40 minutes long.
Quite a bit of content into Rush of Blood then.
There's only like, I think, 7 or 8 levels, but they last just long enough to where you get comfortable. I heard Batman's good. I haven't played that, but I know that's not very long either.
Yeah, that's like a 40-minute experience as well, I think.
Yeah, this is the one that like I can go to and say, this is a game that you can play.
Okay, what have you got for your number 3 spot then?
Number 3, the long-awaited Final Fantasy 15. So I don't know if you've played that or not.
I've only played the Platinum demo.
So that's probably not the best representation of the game, to be honest.
No, when I was going into that, I'll be honest, I was expecting from what I've seen of Final Fantasy 15, and it's not at all. Like, it's like this weird intro thing where you play as... Is it Noctis as a kid, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like all the games on my list, there are so many flaws to where we could sit there talking about what the games don't have. For Final Fantasy 15, you kind of have to say, I love everything that's there, but there's not enough. That goes for the story, the combat, all that stuff. But despite that, I think it's one of the first RPGs in a long time where even though the story is nonsense because they cut so much of it, at least the characters were strong enough to carry you through the game. Now, I love Kingdom Hearts style combat. This is a kind of slightly different, but at the same time not.
It's like action real-time stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But, you know, just the way that the game comes together, the areas that you go through, the general feel of the story, all of that is good. It's one of the few games that I've been able to sit down and really get into and play and enjoy and not feel like I want to stop every hour or so.
Are you much of like a Final Fantasy fan at all in the past?
I am. I'm the strange one that says it kind of ended with Final Fantasy XI, which was their first online one. Not that it ended before it, but I actually loved Final Fantasy XI so much that in turn Final Fantasy XII, which should have been brilliant for most people, kind of felt like a single player version of 11. 13 was kind of crap. 14 I got into a little bit lately, but 15 really feels like it was trying to do something different, even if it didn't quite reach where it wanted to. I really just enjoyed the experience.
Was it a satisfying ending without giving too much away?
Mostly. Again, like I wanted more of it. I wanted more of the motivation. You could tell, like, it's very, very obvious where they cut certain things out.
Because they added, like, is it chapter 13 or whatever it was? They added something back in.
Yeah, that one's terrible. Which is, again, you know, there's so many bad things about some of these games. But as a whole, looking back, I can gloss over the fact that chapter 13 was one of the worst gaming experiences this year and say everything else was good enough to where I don't know, I just had fun.
Okay, well, what is your number 2 pick then?
Number 2, we move to the indie hit Stardew Valley. So for those that don't know, Stardew Valley is basically Harvest Moon, which started on the Super Nintendo, taken to the next level. Without going to the 3D stuff, without getting into all sorts of weird gimmicks, it really is like a sequel to the Super Nintendo game.
It feels a little bit Minecrafty in some cases as well. I don't know if you got that vibe.
Once in a while. It does everything that I thought Harvest Moon should have done. I'm a big fan of those classic ones. Once it got to the PlayStation and the Nintendo 64, I wasn't really feeling it anymore. I liked the 2D style. I liked everything it had to offer. That's not to say I didn't play the later games, but it just wasn't the same. And they kept adding stuff, and then they had the spin-offs. I just can't keep track of it. So this brings it back. It simplifies everything that I loved about the old games in terms of farming and just building your farm, making money. Then it does add that twist of being able to fight monsters in the mine, all these other little things that it just felt fresh even though it wasn't in some weird way.
It did feel like a culmination of just a bunch of like ideas from over the years, like you say, from Harvest Moon, a little bit of Minecraft, and it just kind of put it all together, and like you say, it just brought something new and yet it's retro at the same time.
Yeah, and it's not retro in the way that it's beating your head over, look at our pixels. It's retro in the way of, this is what you like to play, we've cleaned it up, play it more. Because there is nothing wrong with the old games.
The thing about Stardew Valley as well, I noticed, I've only played it for about 2 or 3 hours, so obviously I'm only just sort of scratching the surface, and they give you so many things to do. Not like, it's not overwhelming in the sense of like, what one do I go for? You go for one thing, you think, oh, that's the day over. Keep doing that thing and plugging away at this one thing. But then there's also the farm I want to contain, and there's also this girl down the road, she asked for this like gift or something. there's so many things to do. You're never wanting, think like, I don't know what to do next.
And that's one of the most impressive parts of this game, is it was made by essentially one person. So the fact that all these systems existed, and not just existed, but they're good. You know, fighting is fun, farming is fun, fishing some people have issues with, but I didn't. But all these things came together in a way that you just didn't think that one person could do it.
Stardew Valley has been like the indie darling of this year, I think. Like, that's taken a lot of people by surprise.
I was surprised, you know, I expected something that was Harvest Moon by an indie guy, with all the flaws of indie games that you kind of get used to and you gloss over because they don't have a budget. And that's what's kind of refreshing about it too, is it also doesn't feel like it was made by a team of 200 people. It feels like it's been made by somebody who truly was a fan of the old games and just wanted to do more with it.
Yeah.
And I know there's a ton of content that's been added since I played it, so I mean, if you want an indie game that runs well, that is fun, and continues to be supported, you could do a lot worse than Stardew Valley.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay, well, this is the big number one then, Andrew. What is your favorite game of 2016?
All right, we move on from a game made by one to a game made by, of course, Square Enix again with Dragon Quest Builders.
When you mentioned this to me before, like this is gonna be on your list, I was surprised, but I got to admit, I played the demo and I really liked it.
When you first look at it, it truly does look like a Minecraft clone. And it's like, how is Dragon Quest going to fit into this type of game? But the second you play that demo, if it's even something you're remotely into, it just clicks.
I'm a fan of Minecraft. I'm not like a huge Minecraft fan, but I've played like a number of hours of Minecraft, and I love building stuff, but there's never a real purpose to Minecraft like there is with Dragon Quest Warriors. It's got the RPG-ness of it, like where there's a town to build and there's people to like populate and people to give you quests to go on, and actually gives you a structure, I guess.
You know, that structure that it gives is just enough to where it hooks you. It gives you enough freedom to where you can build mostly what you want to. It's just really fun. I haven't beaten it yet, so I know there's a lot more for me to do, but the fact that this game made such a big impression, and there were times like where I would rather play that than Forza. I think that's what kind of got me off of Forza. So just the fact that I wanted to play that, I really wasn't interested in it before the demo.
It's interesting that the same company would release a big game like Final Fantasy 15 in the same 6 months period as this.
I think that's an issue where they didn't think that anybody outside of Japan would want to play it for some reason. It's nice that it supports the Vita. I've been playing on the PS4, but I'm always a fan of games that have good ports on the Vita, and this by all means seems to be one of those.
What drew you to actually buying this game then? Was it that you were a Dragon Quest fan, or like maybe the Minecraft aspect of it?
I was a fan of both. You know, I've played Dragon Quest for longer than I can remember, and I was early on board with Minecraft, but it wasn't until the demo that I said, I need to buy this basically the day it comes out.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't seem like something that should work.
Minecraft crossed with Dragon Quest, like one of the most popular kids games in the last few years against like some hardcore RPG. Like
right, and Dragon Quest is known for being slow.
Yeah.
It's just what it is. It is a very traditional RPG where you have to click through menus to do basic tasks. But that doesn't make sense in a Minecraft style world. But for some reason, it just works.
Yeah, it does. I played the demo before you gave me your list originally. And I only did it just because I was getting a bunch of footage together for games that come out this year. And I was sort of scrolling through PS4 looking at demos of games that I could just grab some like sort of 5-minute footage here and there. And I played through the entire demo, which is about half an hour, maybe more. And I was like, oh, I'll keep playing this.
Yeah, you get to the end and it's like, oh, you kind of worry too about where can you go with the game from there. Like after you start building out your town, they don't give you a whole big area to do it. But there are other areas of the game which add all sorts of different mechanics to it, different things you can build. So I was happily surprised to see how the game progressed.
Well, thank you for showing us your top 5, Andrew. I've got to admit, I think that was a surprise number 1 for myself and probably a lot of people, because it's not the biggest game when you think of 2016.
No, I think it's just the game that came together the best with the least amount of compromise. Forza 3 is still just a racing game. Until Dawn, you know, you kind of want more to that. It is just an on-rails game, as fun as it is. Final Fantasy 15, 10 years of development, and that's all this cut stuff. Stardew Valley was really good, so I have to say it was a close call between Stardew and Dragon Quest, but Dragon Quest won out.
Again, thank you, Andrew. Where can people find you online if they want to follow you and find all your great work that you do?
I think the best place to go is youtube.com/PtoPOnline. We do have a Patreon campaign where basically it turns out unreleased games are really expensive, especially the equipment to cover it. You have to factor in development kits, all this stuff. Every dollar just shows that people out there do care. All the subscribers out there, whether it's their Twitter at Borman18, there is the website, which at PtoPOnline.com. All that stuff just allows me to talk to developers who otherwise don't want to talk to some stranger online.
Yeah, like there's a face behind the sort of...
Exactly. You know, I've covered Oni 2 based on the Bungie title. All these things would never happen without people who show that they care about games and game preservation. So if you do check it out, I do hope you like it. It's a lot of fun covering that sort of thing.
Well, looking forward to your future Final Fantasy 13 or Versus 13 video.
I sure hope so. Could you imagine?
Yeah, can you imagine just getting hold of that?
I think the internet might explode and I might end up in jail for that one, but that's okay. It'll be worth it.
Square Enix come knocking on your door. I know you said good things about Dragon Quest builders, but I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's going to be a bunch of Mughals coming to my door riding chocobos.
I'd be okay with that.
Dressed like the Turks.
Oh, okay, thank you, Andrew. Cheers for joining us.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun.